What's up, guys? This is Chad at Alldogs Offroad. Now, a few videos back, we did like a quick video on these passenger side forward bed mounts on Nissan Frontiers and how they have a propensity to fail when you add some weight to the bed of the truck, typically like a camper or a cap setup, something that causes the bed to rock back and forth. And we went and showed you kind of how the sheet metal here is just crazy thin for what it is, and especially compared to the other three mounts on the vehicle. So our friend Tony's here, and we're going to show you really quickly how to do the bed mount bracket install that we developed. And the quick steps essentially are going to be that we're going to jack the truck up under the rear axle here so we can get the tire off and out of the way, so you got a little bit of working space here. And then we're going to take either a chisel or an air hammer, because there's a captive bracket that holds a nut in place, which is what runs through your frame and clenches your bed to the frame. So in order to do the install on our bed mount bracket, you have to remove this captive plate here. It has a couple spot welds on it. Sometimes like a sharp chisel and a hammer will do it. Sometimes you'll need an air hammer, but that has to be removed. And then we're going to clean up the area and prep for the bed mount bracket. Now, this truck does not have a failure yet. Tony installed a Super Pacific camper, and this is preventative, maybe not maintenance, but a preventative upgrade for him. So check it out. It's gonna get you! This is gonna get me. Stay. So, we got the wheel and tire out of the way. We've got the rear axle supported with the jack right now. Next step is going to be removing your bed bolt here. This is going to be a 14 millimeter and should come pretty simple. And you'll have a bushing here. You'll want to save that for reuse. They always look a little rough, but they seem to hold up. There'll also be another rubber bushing here under the bed. When you do your welding, you'll want to remove that so that you don't melt it. You're ready here to start ripping things out. Now, because of the spot welds and how tight the sheet metal is, you really want to use a chisel with a sharp edge on it. This is one that I've ground down in the past, so it's got a nice kind of taper to it, so it wedges in there just fine. And tap and hammer. At a very minimum, this will let you fold the sheet metal up, and if you can't break it manually, you can use an air hammer to do so. So you're part of the way there, and you may rip your sheet metal just slightly, but that's going to be filled with the heavier duty bracket anyways. There's your captive nut right there. Come on. I can see you. So now that your bed mount nut and the captive bracket are removed, it's going to be time to start prepping for your bed mount bracket. So this is a preformed piece of sheet metal, and it's essentially just going to go right into place here, and we'll clamp it down when we're ready. But what you're going to do now is you're going to start doing some prep. So you're going to have to take a grinder and clean up anywhere that you're going to be welding, so that you can get nice clean welds. So you don't want paint, you want bare metal. So what we're going to do is, with this in place, we'll probably take a Sharpie and mark just about everywhere that we're going to need to grind, and we have a couple plug weld holes right here as well. Now we'll clean up, prep, we'll start the burn-in process. One thing that you'll notice with our bed mount is there's no through hole, and that is by design. Different beds will have different mounting points, so what you'll have to do is, once you're all welded in, you'll take a drill and you'll drill your hole here through in order to have your attachment point. So we've got all the paint knocked down that we're going to need to in order to get our welds in place. And you can take your bracket, test fit it just to make sure. That might take a couple times just to make sure that you got everything cleared where you want to. And some of this is going to be hard to get to with like a rotary grinder, so sometimes just having a little bit of sandpaper and doing it by hand will help get you into the difficult to reach places. At this point, we're getting pretty close. Bracket is test fit, and one thing you'll want to do too on the bracket, when these come to you, they'll typically have mill scale on them, so you can take a grinder and clean them up, knock them down. This one's mostly been cleaned up already. It does have a little bit of surface corrosion, so I'll probably clean it up again because this went to one of the trade shows with us and was a display piece. So before we weld, we'll clean this up. I think the last thing we do before we actually start burning this in is making sure that we get the rubber bushing out from in between the frame and the bed mount. There we go. Save that because you'll reuse it. Okay. One other thing I forgot to mention is make sure you clean up a little spot for your ground on your welder. So typically I just do that on the outer edge of the flange here. So we've got all of our sheet metal cleaned up, the bracket is cleaned up, and got it dropped into place. You can use a hammer and tap it if you need to get it to seat down fully in. But you want to make sure that you're butted up against everything. You want to make sure that your tabs here are butted up against your bed with little to no gap, and make sure that everything sits flush here. And you can use a C-clamp if you need to clamp things down, but if you do that, just make sure that you don't get deflection that pulls the bracket away from the bed. Right now we're happy with the fitment, and we're going to be about ready to start tacking and welding here. Once your bracket is in place and you get set up for welding, you're going to want to keep in mind that this is some pretty thin gauge steel, so you're going to want to be careful to not run too high and risk burning through your factory sheet metal here. Pay attention to your amps and your wire feed. And then one other thing that you're gonna do is in the bed, come with me, Michael. In the bed, if you have anything that's butting up against the sheet metal, you're gonna wanna pull it, because you're gonna be putting a lot of heat into the sheet metal and you would run the risk of burning or melting. So this truck does not have a spray and bed liner. Trucks that do have spray and bed liner, you can take some wet rags and have somebody back here and maybe with like a little bit of water managing the heat just so you don't burn all the way through. You'll probably crisp your paint a little bit, and you can treat that with some primer and some spray paint after the fact if you need to. But you want to do your best not to, to destroy the finish on the inside of the bed. Or in this instance, Tony's got a bed rug, and so he's peeled it back to give us access here. If this bed rug was sitting here while you're trying to weld, it would probably melt a hole in the bed rug. So you want to be careful of your heat and what's on the other side of your bed when you start doing your welding.
We're ready for when he starts welding, and then I'll just be changing out the rags and adding water as needed, and hopefully mitigate any possible damage to the inside of the truck bed.
Two things. Before you weld, make sure that you disconnect your battery. It's just good practice because you don't want to fry your ECU or anything like that. And then make sure that you've got all your PPE on. Oh, make that three things. The bed mount is going to be fairly difficult to weld with like a normal mask on. You'll be in here and you're just going to be bopping your head. I do have like a half mask, but I don't know that it's charged, and so I'm not really willing to risk the flash burn to see at the moment. So I'm just gonna do it with my normal mask. You'll probably see me get frustrated because one of the things I hate more than anything is bopping my head or bopping the mask while I'm welding, but it is what it is.
What do the pros do? Nice.
That's from the back. Make sure to communicate well. One thing that Enoch did that was really helpful is he asked me to tap where I was going to be welding so that he could locate and be ready on his side there. But we're pretty much good to go. I'm going to start tacking here in a minute. Probably do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then as long as I'm happy with everything, then I'll just start burning it in. I took my glove off to show you, but I'm not going to touch anything because I don't want to burn myself. But when you do your weld, you're going to come on your inner here, right down to the radius. And then if you can get to your plug welds, fill your plug welds, and then start at your squared off section here, come down all the way across, and then from your outer here down to your radius again. And then right here is where I was mentioning that you've got a bit of a radius, so it's going to take a little bit of fill to get in there. Well, you guys missed it, but we had some technical difficulties with our welder. I had a drive gear that wasn't gripping the wire and feeding it appropriately, so we had to fix that. But she's all burned in right now. I've got my welds all where I'd highlighted before. My back corner weld is a little ugly, but that's because of the fits that this was given when I started. She's in, she's solid. The next step is we're gonna drill our hole through for the bed mount, and then we're gonna put our isolators and everything back in. Actually, before that, we'll drill the hole, and then we'll paint it, and then we'll put the rubber isolators back in place, and then this should be done. Whenever you're working or exposing bare metal, you're gonna wanna paint it to prevent corrosion. So after you're welded in, don't leave bare metal. We're just about done. It's pretty straightforward for the most part. We'll get her drilled, we'll get her painted, we'll get her mounted, and then we'll get her on the road. All right, we're ready for paint. So we're painted now, and I've just used a pry bar to lift and put the rubber bushing that we had taken out, so that's back in place. So really all we've got left to do is just put our fasteners through and tighten, and it's done. Now these come with blue Loctite from the factory, so you may want to Loctite them when you do your installation. And you can choose to do one of two things. You can reuse your fasteners as long as they haven't been destroyed. Some guys that are doing this where their bed mounts have already failed, this ends up being trashed, so you may be better off just getting new hardware. But since this was a preventative upgrade, we can reuse the fasteners and not have any issue. So we'll get her inserted, get her Loctited, and she's done. All in all, it's fairly easy if you have a welder and some tools for cleanup. You could do this in a garage or do this at home, as long as you have a little bit of welding experience. And if you don't, definitely get some thin sheet metal and do some practicing beforehand, just so you get a feel for not blowing through. And I don't think you'd be able to use a flux core wire. You'd probably have to use a solid wire and shielding gas. Michael's nagging me for an outro, so here you guys go. She's all done, and this is Tony's truck. He was hiding behind the camera, but we just did a test spray with some RP 342, which we buy on Amazon. It's basically like an aerosol cosmoline. It sprays as an oil and dries as a wax. He's going to be doing some beach camping and that sort of thing, so he's doesn't want to develop rust over time, and this will help with that. Bed mount is all done, bolted in, painted. Everything came out good, with the exception of my weld in the back corner, which Michael's gonna censor because I'm not very proud of it. But structurally, it's fine. All in all, if your welder doesn't give you a fit, it's like an hour to an hour and a half job, maybe. We're seeing a lot of these guys ripping the beds on these. Since we've listed them on the website, I think we probably sold quite more than we were expecting. So this is a common problem on Nissan Frontiers from 05 all the way to present. If you're gonna be running a camper setup or an overland setup where you're getting the bed rocking, is definitely recommended. You can do it preemptively, or you can wait till your bed mount fails. It's probably better to do it preemptively. It's a little bit easier when these fail. They kind of shred the metal in here. So my truck, I repaired my bed mount before the brackets were available, if I remember correctly. And I just made a plate that set in. And I had maybe, I think I remember there were 5 cracks in it. There's a previous YouTube video you guys can check out, but it was just thrashed. And I don't know when the failure started. I kind of wish we'd known about it earlier so we could keep an eye on it. Anyways, I'm rambling. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about installing one of these, feel free to leave a comment or reach out. We do have them in stock and ready to go if you do have a failed bed mount and need to repair it. And as always, thanks for watching.